Hey guys, today I am going to give you my opinion whether or not Karl Jobst misled the donors or misled his audience about the true reason Billy Mitchell was suing him. A lot of the Karl Jobst audience still believes it is about cheating, or when they found out it was not about cheating via losing, they were shocked, right? How could Karl lose on a cheating accusation by Billy Mitchell? And the answer was it was never about cheating for this particular lawsuit. The discrepancy and the confusion happens because early on, at one point in time, there were concern notices. Now, these are not lawsuits, these are concern notices that were sent to Karl Jobst by Billy Mitchell regarding cheating. So initially, there was nothing about Apollo Legend. Apollo Legend came later. It was about cheating on a video titled Guinness World Records Should Stay Out of Gaming. So that was when these notifications were sent. They were sent with defamation and so on. So they have battled on these claims, I think Karl Jobst would 100% win. Now, the timeline is super important here, and we're going to actually take a look at evidence of the timeline. At some point in time, it was not about cheating. It was only about Apollo Legend. So Billy Mitchell, we'll take a look at the tweets, and then we'll take a look at the timestamp. But after it was about Apollo Legend, it was easier for Karl Jobst just to go with the cheating narrative because that's what everyone wanted to see. Karl is a YouTuber. YouTubers know what gets views and what does not get views, and YouTubers know what will get donations and what will not get donations. The Apollo Legend, you have a lot of people deleting comments. You have a lot of people deleting entire threads about Apollo Legend. The way that they treated, harassed, and abused him and his mental health was something that gamers will never, ever take responsibility for. The Apollo Legend story is, as I recount, and somebody correct me, close to Apollo Legend. I've spoken to people who were supposedly close to him. He's always had mental health issues. YouTube was a main or a large source of income for him. And he would do things like travel to meet Billy Mitchell dressed up as Billy Mitchell to get attention and views and so he could make YouTube videos. What he didn't expect was that Billy Mitchell would sue him, because who would expect that at that particular point in time? The settlement did not end. He ended up settling, but previous to settling, he had said, I'm going to slay Billy Mitchell, very much in the same tone that Karl is saying now. The audience, his audience, and the general gaming audience was really appalled when he settled. In fact, I have a whole nother video about that, and now I have the sources that can back up those statements. What I thought happened was exactly what is kind of happening to Karl Jobst. If you lose versus Billy Mitchell, your audience will turn on you because you told them that you're going to win. If you settle with Billy Mitchell, your audience will turn on you because you told them you were going to win, get some form of justice, etc., etc. There are multiple tweets from Karl saying as much. So they settled. Karl did not do a good job investigating. So this is the crux of why Billy Mitchell won. Karl could have easily contacted someone who would know, but instead, Karl relied on information he found online and didn't collaborate. So when we talk about research and investigation, there are certain levels to it. If you are going to accuse a Billy Mitchell, of being related or being responsible in part for another man's death, you better have done some fact checking and some research. And shout out to CoffeeZilla, he dots his I's and crosses his T's. It seemed like Karl was just doing this type of investigation, and he wasn't really. He honestly did not do a good job investigating this particular part of his claims. And that's when Billy Mitchell saw an opportunity. Right? Billy Mitchell has no ability to win on cheating. Even Billy Mitchell's really good lawyer, the King's Counsel now, would tell you this, that there would be no no lawyer. I don't think a lawyer would take the case because you cannot win that claim. In fact, we will see in a text that that's exactly what Karl Jobst has said in a text or in a tweet. And we are now in a scenario where initially Billy Mitchell cannot beat Karl Jobst, and all the things that Karl Jobst is saying at that point in time is correct. It is about cheating, and Apollo Legend, it has nothing to do with Apollo Legend. Karl made a video where he should have investigated more, and this is why it will cost him. And he made statements that were frankly just simply not true. Now, no one can say these statements are true because the evidence is Billy Mitchell never received $1 of damages from Apollo Legend. And how we know this is we can look at the court case. Very simple. That's the truth. Karl said something that was not true, that would be easily disproved by those court documents. And you might say, oh, it's NDA, it's private, it's so on. But there were people that Karl could have contacted that would, including Apollo Legend's own brother, who would have been able to tell Karl that, hey, that's not what it turned out to happen. So it's one of these things where initially there was this idea, I'm going to sue you for cheating. Then, because you're continuing to make videos about Billy Mitchell, you step out of the cheating realm and then you accuse him of being responsible for another person's death. And that's where you got in trouble, Karl. Because had you never made that statement, Billy Mitchell could have sued you for cheating, and I think everyone here believes he would have lost. But you made a statement that was outside the bounds because you wanted to make Billy Mitchell seem really, really bad. But in doing so, you actually gave Billy Mitchell the case where he could win. Not just win. I mean, he won so badly that you think the judge is biased against you and is unfairly attacking you. That's how badly Billy Mitchell won. Right? It's not just it is a complete victory in every sense of that word, right? I cannot imagine if he had awarded even more money, it might have been easier to appeal it. And he awarded an amount of money where I believe he did so because he was worried that Karl Jobst would appeal it, and no judge wants their verdict to be overturned. That would be very bad. So we have a scenario where in the beginning, Karl Jobst was the good guy. At some point in time, he became the bad guy. But does that mean Billy Mitchell was always the good guy? Well, right now, we remember the winners. The winners are the winners, and the losers are the losers. So that's a question for you. Is there a scenario where both individuals were guilty of something, right? Possibly. I think even likely. But Billy Mitchell was a lot smarter than Karl in every sense of that word because he sued on the claims that he could win on. And he abandoned the claims that he would lose on. So Billy Mitchell claimed he will sue me for saying Apollo Legend paid him money. I removed that portion from my video. Not because it is wrong, but because this isn't the issue I want to go to court over. I rather he sue me over his fake Donkey Kong scores. This summarizes exactly Karl Jobst's mindset, right? He's still thinking that he's going to be sued over Donkey Kong, which never materialized. It never got to verdict. It never got to trial. So when you look at when the legal fund was set up, even though Billy Mitchell had only sued about Apollo Legend, and even in a recent, so the fundraiser was set up November 3rd, 2022, Billy Mitchell is giving testimony, a deposition at, I think, Twin Galaxies, and he's mentioning specifically that the fund, not the funds, that his lawsuit is about Apollo Legend and not about video games. And he says not about video games actually twice. So around this period in time, it was clear that he would be suing only on Apollo Legend. So it became only cheating to potentially cheating and Apollo Legend to now only Apollo Legend. So at some point in time, the exact date is probably unknown. You would have to get that from Billy. The strategy had completely flipped, and now we're going to drop the cheating accusations because, or the cheating defamatory issuances, the claims, because we cannot win that. Billy Mitchell cannot win this. And that makes a lot of sense to how this kind of turned out. Now, as to why most people had no idea that this was about cheating, or this was not about cheating, and why they believed it was about cheating, because Karl Jobst then made a lot of videos where it highlighted that Billy Mitchell was a cheater, and Apollo Legend was mentioned either not at all in those videos, or very, very vaguely, or very, very shortly, maybe both. And so if you are a casual viewer, which most people are, you're never going to hear the name Apollo Legends. And why is that? Well, there is a darker history to, and there always is dark history to this type of stuff. If you dig and you can dig forever. And it's looking into an abyss, right? At what point does the abyss stare back at you? So the things that I've learned about Apollo Legend, I have one source that, again, I believe it is a reliable source, and it's very dark. It is very dark how the gaming community treated him. They were very angry at him. They mentioned, for somebody with mental health, reading these comments about Apollo Legend would have been, Apollo Legend, having read these comments, it would have been pretty devastating. And even today, many in the gaming community still believe that that they don't have any responsibility in what they said. So let me just read you some of this stuff right now, okay? And you will understand why it gets a little dark. I'm going to read you Reddit quotes. I'm not going to post them here. Man, that's awful. I had a lot of issues with the way he conducted himself, but no one wanted to end like this. R.I.P. He tried to start way too much drama for someone of his mental state. Shame. I used to watch his videos. Not fair at all to call this context when Apollo literally left a blank note in video form. I'm not going to link it, but I found it pretty quickly on Twitter. TLDR, Apollo had chronic physical and mental health conditions that he said he would eventually hospitalize him, and he hates hospitals and would prefer to go out with some dignity. He said this was inevitable and had nothing to do with anything online related. Apparently, the video description of the YouTube video before it was removed did have a part about thanking Dark Viper and EasyScape for pushing him to the decision. So this context isn't 100% invalid, but his video itself does not mention them at all, nor Billy Mitchell anywhere. So Billy Mitchell was not mentioned in the description. Dark Viper and EasyScape were mentioned, right? Like, I know Apollo was probably in a horrible state of mind considering what he did after the video was posted, but putting that on Dark and Easy just because they made videos going over some of his quite valid faults in the last few months is kind of horrible. It looks like Dark made a video regarding this unfortunate scenario and how he was mentioned. So there is some, many people in the community, and again, a lot of this has been just kind of scrubbed clean for obvious reasons, because we're dealing with the mention of, something that's kind of that you don't really want to mention on YouTube. So I'm going to read his wiki Tubia to understand, to really give you a kind of a gist of like what is happening here. His first channel spotlight in the speedrun community happened when Apollo made 2 videos about Billy Mitchell and Todd Rogers, 2 record holders considered to hold cheated world records. After these two videos, Apollo started to be recognized by the community in a both positive and negative way. On December 30th, 2020, so this is a very important date. So December 30th, 2020, Apollo uploaded a video, later taken down by YouTube, on his second channel. The short video included a download link with a very long text in the description. In this text, Apollo named Dark Viper AU, Easyscape, and other famous speedrunners commentators, stating various things about their situations that led him do this hard choice. In the long text under the video, Apollo tries to expose the speedrunning community, calling it a bunch of hypocrites, while also pointing out his mental health caused by childhood trauma that worsened over time. The 8-minute downloadable video includes much more details regarding Apollo's health, such as the many traumas he experienced as a kid, daily vomits, or the many regrets about the choices he had done to his friends and himself. After the video was released, several YouTubers were shocked about the announcement, one among them Drama Alert, who tried to give consolation to Apollo. Unfortunately, it was later announced that Apollo had died. After the announcement was made, various YouTubers, including Dark Viper AU himself, gave their tribute to Apollo. Following Apollo's death, various YouTubers were accused of bullying due to the text, including a shade to those who had at least made one video about Apollo himself during the Dark Viper AU drama. Afterwards, many had to upload a video about the problem, saying that they had been manipulated by the text and that Apollo had done so unintentionally. Various people have debunked the long text, pointing to the hypocrisy in the errors, theorizing that Apollo had no idea he could have written in the final message. Personal friend Shalom Dawn emerged as a YouTuber for the first time in defending him from the collective besmirching of his memory. So that was essentially what happened to Apollo Legend. That gives you a little bit more context of what's happening here. Does it have anything to do with Billy Mitchell cheating? Well, Apollo Legend and his relationship with Billy Mitchell notwithstanding, obviously that's very important for the storyline, right? And for the timeline, it does not. It seems like Karl Jobst wanted to take a dig at Billy Mitchell, and he did so without having done his research. He did so without, and the way that he retracted it, and so on. I agree with the judge. It does not look good, but that's why this decision has surprised so many people. Initially, it was 100% about cheating. Then it was about cheating and Apollo Legend. Then it was 100% about Apollo Legend. But if you look at Karl Jobst's most recent videos, they don't mention Apollo Legend anywhere. There are just pictures of Billy and the title and the thumbnail. Fake story is falling apart, and you know, we can read all these titles, right? And they have nothing to do with Apollo Legend. Cheater Billy Mitchell just keeps losing. When Cartoon Network destroyed Billy Mitchell, cheater Billy Mitchell just got destroyed by new evidence. So cheater Billy Mitchell, right? And that's the same thing with the GoFundMe. Billy Mitchell lost his lawsuit. Billy Mitchell and the Red Joystick of Destiny. I'm finally going to trial against Billy Mitchell. Let's just read them all right at this point. I just exposed Billy Mitchell's dumbest lie ever. Gaming's biggest con man. Billy Mitchell is being sued for millions. Billy Mitchell gets destroyed by a judge. And in the thumbnails, there's always cheating, deceit, fraud, right? So the whole narrative, interestingly enough, even when the case was obviously not about cheating from Karl Jobst's side, I can understand why people are so confused, because they see these videos, they see the thumbnail, it clearly means cheater Billy Mitchell, cheater, and they know that Karl's in a lawsuit with Billy Mitchell. So the casual watcher who's just going to watch the video, who's not going to look into the case, who's not going to read the case, is going to think that this is about cheating, because they're going to put number one, Billy Mitchell suing Karl for something. Karl has often vaguely mentioned it, if not omitted it completely. Okay? Omission of an important fact could be considered misrepresentation. It could be. So then we have a very bizarre scenario happening where a lot of people think Karl is going to absolutely win. That Karl cannot lose because he cannot lose. Had this been about cheating, I don't even think Billy Mitchell would think he could win. Because if he thought he could win, he would have added the claims. There are no, they're not called claims in Australia, they're called imputations. There's no imputations about cheating because simply, like his own attorney said, it doesn't matter. It does not matter. The reason so many people feel misled and that Karl had misrepresented his thing was because of the videos he continued to make after the fact that he definitely knew, because he's got lawyers, right, that it was no longer about cheating. It was just the narrative everyone wanted to hear. I would say that as a YouTuber who knows a little bit about titles and stuff, had he mentioned Apollo Legend, then we get into really, really different territory because we're talking about a young man, Steph. We're talking about a topic that YouTube does not, and specifically YouTube took down his video, Apollo Legends video. We are specifically talking about something that YouTube hates. So is it, can you monetize it? No. Can you talk about it openly? No. As soon as you mention that word, I had a, I think 4-hour live stream, and because the judge kept mentioning that word over and over again, I got demonetized immediately. And now they're running like different ads, but obviously I'm not getting money. I don't know who's getting money for this type. Maybe hopefully like a charity or something. That would be kind of cool. I could live with that. That would be a good response to it. But you cannot talk about this thing on YouTube. So what would be easier and more appealing to talk about to your audience who hate Billy Mitchell? Cheating, right? YouTube's all, you can say whatever you want, right? Or talking about something else where YouTube hates that word, and I would imagine they would demonetize you immediately. So if you're in it for the money, which all of us, I use my money to give to charity, dog charities, dog shelters, cat shelters. I'm an equal cat and dog person. Then, yeah, what if this is your livelihood and you're a full-time YouTuber and you have two decisions to make? I can make videos that people will watch and there will be millions and millions of views, and they'll be about cheating. Or I can make videos about this other topic that YouTube really hates, and I'm going to be demonetized, so I'm not going to get YouTube ad revenue. And my audience is probably not going to be super interested in because it's a really, really disturbing topic to talk about that makes people uncomfortable. What I understood to happen after the incident was that people in the gaming community started deleting all their posts. The people who attacked the mental health of Apollo Legend the most, they started wiping everything out. Because they know they do not want to be attached to that. You do not want to be in any way associated to being responsible, even a little bit, for that action. And that's what was happening. So would you really make a video topic about Apollo Legend when it is a very, very dangerous video topic to make? And the other argument that I see a lot of, which I agree to an extent, right, is that if the accusations or if the imputations are all about Apollo Legend, then don't talk about Apollo Legend, but there's no imputations about cheating. Should you talk about cheating, that's where I would, again, so an argument could be made. I understand what the argument is. I would just say, as any lawyer would tell Karl, just to be quiet during the litigation process, because even if you make a video about cheating, and cheating is not that relevant to your case about you're being sued for Apollo Legend, it does show that you will be a sure winner which you've already mentioned many times on camel. I mean, it's just, impressions do make a difference. And Karl did not come off very well with this particular judge, and I don't think he's going to come off well with any judge that tends to be of this person's age, because it simply is someone who is, there's no mercy, there's no pity, there's no empathy. It's not even being a human being, right? So this is my takeaway. Initially, from the very beginning, had it been about cheating till today, Karl would have won. He, in his anger, made a video he should not have made. He, in his anger, made, in his journey, or to slay the dragon that is Billy Mitchell, made a statement that was untrue, that should have never been made. Had he just focused on cheating videos and never mentioned Apollo Legend or his situation by name, being associated with Billy Mitchell, he would have won today. The error in trying to destroy someone is sometimes you don't see clearly, and in the legal sense, this is defamation. And in many ways, I feel a little bit of empathy for Karl. I feel a lot of empathy for his family, because I know he knew he messed up with the Apollo Legend. There's no way that you can make a statement like that and not know that you are going to lose. Now, when we were covering the case, I thought so people say, oh, well, what else could he do? If you were his lawyer, what else would you? I thought that so if you are accused of defamation, you have defenses against defamation, at least in America. And again, Australia is different. Yes, I get it. Like, you can say, okay, defamation has been done. I agree, right? But I don't think the damages should be this high. I don't think there are many defenses against defamation. And so the most common defense is the truth, right? Okay, that's not true, so we're gonna not do that. But you can say this is just a opinion. This is a statement of opinion are generally protected. Again, in the U.S., I don't know how it's in Australia. I can repeat this a million times, and you got still people in comment section saying I'm not Australian, which is true. So as long as it's not a factual assertion, so he can argue it is some type of opinion. I'm just kind of saying it in the context of the video. Would he win that? I do not think so, right? There's also consent, statute of limitations, retraction. So retraction, that's his strongest argument. So in some cases, retracting the statement and issuing an apology may mitigate the damages. So he's still going to have to pay damages, but they will be far less had he not made an apology. That's how I would play it. I would just go ahead and say, you know what? It was defamation. You guys got us. We're not going to argue that. But he did try to retract it. He did try to edit his video. He did try to, say, hey, this was not correct, based on information he later found out. Boom. Done. So, okay, we are going to be responsible for some level of damages. The other thing was the $3,000 offer is just not a very good offer. I was so shocked to find out that the amount of money that was offered, even at that stage, was so low. Make a reasonable offer. Make reasonable things. Stop talking about, slaying the dragon. Stop talking about being the White Knight or punishing Billy Mitchell. Stop talking about all this stuff that you talked about, and really just focus on making a settlement. And even if Billy doesn't accept your reasonable settlement, the reason that I think this guy, Karl, has gotten so much trouble is there's an echo chamber. What is good for Karl, and I go back to Apollo Legend. What was best for Apollo Legend wasn't to battle Billy Mitchell in court for 4 years. That would have broke his mental health, right? 4 years of litigation is going to break anyone. There's going to be severe mental problems, or mental issues, or stress levels will increase. This is what happened. Apollo Legend said, "Hey guys, I'm going to beat Billy Mitchell. I need all your support. Thanks for the donations." Then Apollo Legend settled. Well, everyone who had supported Apollo Legend is saying, "Why did you settle? You told us you would beat this evil guy, Billy Mitchell." And Apollo Legend then said, "Well, I had to settle for my own good," or he didn't say it, but it's obvious, right? He settled for his own mental health. That was the right decision for him at the time for that litigation. My $3,000 is not really a great settlement offer. Making video after video about how this guy's a cheater, again, not super relevant to the case, but super relevant in terms of settlement. Let's say you're Billy Mitchell and somebody has literally defamed you. Okay, the literal definition of defamation. And you're wanting to settle, but the other guy continues to make videos about you cheating, and there's no real apology. The retraction is kind of lukewarm at best, right? He didn't have the humbleness and hubris. We see this in his tweets often. He wasn't humble to just talk it out. We live in a society where Republicans versus Democrats, Trump versus anti-Trump, U.S. versus China, right? We live in a world where everything has to be black and white. Why not meet in the middle? Shake hands, apologize. "Hey, Billy, I still think you're a cheater, but you made this mistake. But I made this mistake talking about you in this way. I should not have done that. I sincerely apologize. The video has been taken down. I'm not going to re-upload the video, and I'm not going to, make any future videos about you being a cheater, even though that's what I think." I think Billy would have accepted that. I think Billy just wanted an apology on Apollo Legend. Maybe people believe maybe he wants something else. And then, again, we can go in circles around this, but we're already over 30 minutes long. This will be my last video until Karl Jobst comes up with a response. My feeling is, in today's society, Karl Jobst is a product of today's society. Have you ever seen, I don't want to be rude about this. Have you guys ever seen, so I'll talk about my neighbor. So my neighbor is a huge Kamala Harris fan. I wasn't super fan of Kamala Harris. I thought there were maybe better candidates for the Democrats, but that's neither here nor there. And anyone who dislikes Kamala Harris, he goes at them really hard. The entire family. I do not know what it is. I don't know if they're relatives of Kamala Harris or what is going on here. He's never going to see reality, because everything he reads, surprisingly, he tells me he's read articles about how Kamala Harris really won the election. That's what Facebook feeds him, right? Because he's in an echo chamber. Facebook's algorithm, if it shows him anything about Donald Trump, he's going to be angry and then just not click on it and not view it, because obviously he's going to read every article about Kamala Harris he's going to read. So he's in this Kamala Harris echo chamber where everything that he reads is very positive. And I tried to explain this to him. Hey, I think you're in an echo chamber here. I didn't even know that many articles existed about Kamala Harris being published every day. And then he's in an echo chamber where he joins certain Facebook groups where they're talking about how she won and she's like a hidden president or something. I'm not in those groups, but we live in a society today where you can believe the earth is flat, and then everything you read tells you the earth is flat. I am not joking right now. You can believe, you can be pro-Donald or anti-Donald, and all you're going to be fed is whatever you believe in, right? Because that's where you read the article, that's where you start debating people, and everyone is agreeing with you, right? I'm talking about Discord specifically. Everyone is agreeing with you and your take because, by definition, you have niched yourself out to this certain thing. I believe Karl Jobst was in an echo chamber where they thought Billy Mitchell was a devil. all my, Billy Mitchell's in my chat in my live. Seems like a nice enough guy. Everything I know about Billy Mitchell tells me that even if he cheated, he seems like a nice, reasonable guy. And he certainly wouldn't seem like a guy who would want to do that to Apollo Legend. In fact, I would argue that he is the opposite of a guy who would take Apollo Legend for 4 years in litigation, understanding where he currently was with his mental health. Because he easily, number one, he easily could have litigated Apollo Legends until the cows come home. That would have stressed him out. He does not have to agree to settlement. A settlement is a mutual agreement. It's mutual. Number two, in the video, and the description specifically, people think, oh, he signed an NDA. No, it doesn't matter. You're basically going to do something where you cannot return. Are you really worried about NDAs, your estate, right? People, oh, his estate, probably not worried about that at the moment in time. He, unlike Karl, in his last days, was not thinking about Billy Mitchell and how Billy Mitchell wronged him. That I am certain of. Because he mentions two other individuals, specifically by their YouTube channels, where, I mean, if you're going to make a list, why would you leave him out, having been so recent a part of the litigation? So that's where I am with this. I do hope, and I do hope we live in a world where people can reach across the aisle, if you will, shake someone else's hand with a different political belief, different ethical belief, and different belief as to even this situation, that people can discuss this and learn from it. And it is a situation that should not have happened. It is a situation that should have settled. It is a situation where you just apologize. I did bad. I apologize. Had there been a real apology and a real retraction, and they're going to argue that there was a retraction. It is an argument. Okay, so I'll just leave it this. Had there been a true apology from Karl Jobst to Billy Mitchell, the damages, even during verdict, would be much, much less. Sometimes it's okay to say, I'm wrong. I had to say that recently when I was covering the Daniel Green versus Naomi King scenario. I fell for the Naomi King story, as did other booktubers, right? And later I had to say, man, I am wrong about this. Again, was Daniel Green the best guy? We can argue that. But I was wrong to believe Naomi King's side of the story, even having heard Daniel Green's side of the story. It just, look, man, like, there are so many YouTubers out there who cannot apologize because they cannot admit to their audience they were wrong. Because then it would shatter their image, their godlike image. I'm here to say we are not God, we are men. And I hope, as men, we can apologize when we do things that are wrong to each other. Or, baby, we just double down, man. I guess we'll know what type of man Karl Jobst decides to be. I hope he apologizes, but we'll see. Anyway, that is it. 40 minutes. That should keep you guys warm and cozy for the next few days. Anyway, bye, guys.